Good morning, everybody. We'd like to welcome you to our end of February. It's the 28th podcast here on this Saturday. And we want to go ahead, Amy, and thank Sarah Rice for being our
100%.
editor-in-chief and helping to make this happen. It's been such a blessing to get to know her. She is Philip's sister-in-law, and what a blessing that has been. Well, we're grateful for your response from last week and the opportunity that we've had to get to know Philip a little bit better.
So nice.
And we're going to do the same thing with you today. But before we do that, we need to get, in this edition of Weather in the Word, we need to get an update on what's going on meteorologically. Well, as most of the folks know around here, we are going to be transitioning into spring this week. A little bit of a cold snap on Sunday into Tuesday, but today's going to be awesome. This time next week, we're going to be 70 plus. By the following week, some of the models are indicating that we might be near 80 degrees, which for all of you snow haters is going to be such a blessing. For me, I go into mild depression, but it only lasts about 20 or 30 days. And then I just start getting ramped up for the change of seasons because then we have thunderstorms and then we have hurricanes.
Very exciting.
But what a blizzard, though, last week, right?
Right.
We missed out on all of that pretty much.
But that was...
Oh, my heavens. Some of the folks up in the Providence, Rhode Island area with 37 inches, breaking their all-time record from the Great Blizzard of 1978, which I remember. And the reason I remember it is because, you know where I was in 1978? I was a teenager, and my parents decided right before the Great Blizzard to take us to Disneyland. Now, I'm a snow lover. So as many of you would love going to Disneyland and getting out of that, I was a mess because my house was getting hammered and I was down in Orlando wishing I was back home.
Oh, well.
You can't win them all, right?
You can't.
Exactly.
So sad.
Since we've lived here, though, we've had some great blizzards and some great storms as well. But anyhow, today, weather's going to be awesome. Tomorrow for Sunday church, wherever you're at and wherever you're ministering, it's going to be great. Brief chill on Monday, Tuesday with maybe a little bit of ice and snow, but nothing really big. And then it's off to the races starting Wednesday. And again, but 70 by next week. Listen, one of the great privileges that we've had here at GBC, particularly over the last, well, let's just say even prior COVID, but certainly since COVID, working alongside of Philip and then, of course, with you, Amy. Now, Amy, you and your family, you've been here for over 10 years serving at GBC.
Hard to believe it. But
I know.
Yeah.
And
It's been amazing.
Amy serves as our church administrator and our children's ministry director. So, and in between, she wears multiple different hats as well. One of the things that she and I have learned about each other is that we both tend to be a bit ADD.
Right.
Okay. So people that come here and if they're not used to working with me, they're like, what is up with this guy? Amy has had no problem doing that.
It's a good fit.
Which is part of the reason that we are, in fact, a good fit.
Yeah.
Well, what we'd like to do today is get a little bit about your background.
Sure.
So where did you grow up?
Right.
And a little bit about maybe your heritage.
For sure.
And then maybe what led you to meeting your husband.
Right.
And then ultimately coming here.
So it's just been amazing. And you had alluded to the fact yesterday I've had just a very peppered with different careers and different things that I've done, but it's always been focused on relationships and family and things like that. But I grew up Orthodox Jewish, which transitioned to more conservative, but mostly Orthodox. We kept kosher and just in the synagogue. And that was my heritage. That was our way of life. But just as I grew up, it always felt like something was missing. And I was always seeking that, so trying to figure that out. And I really liked rabbinical studies and things like that. But obviously with Orthodox, you can't. But just it always fascinated me, ministry and helping others.
And was that in the South? Was that in Florida? Jersey. That was up Jersey first.
Yeah, so Barb and I have that. And kind of grew up very close area-wise in New Jersey. And then when I was 13, we moved to Florida.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And then I went to school in Georgia. So just moved around a little bit. But that was kind of my focus is on people and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And really, really struggled growing up.
So then how did you, once you moved to Florida, went to school in Georgia, how did you end up meeting Jeff?
Oh, that is just, it's a beautiful story, and it's amazing to see how God works that way. I was always within the Jewish community and focused on that, and focused on finding somebody Jewish. But Jeff and I met when I decided to dedicate my life to helping others, and there was just a piece that was missing. He was running an animal control and no-kill animal shelter. And then I decided to volunteer my time there. And I was running late and just, you know, drove up to this place, and he was standing out there. And for me, it was love at first sight, not so much for him, but
I don't know. He might say a little different about
but I ended up following him around and just making sure that, our paths would cross. And we met and got married and ended up going out to Washington State, which we were for a while. That's where Mason was born. And then we moved back to Florida, and then he retired, and we moved up to Virginia and have been here since, I believe, 2006.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, that journey from the Virginia ended up being a really critical catalyst
For sure.
to your relationship with Jesus. And if you could share a little bit about what happened there.
Right. All the underpinnings were there, just no matter what I did career-wise in my relationship with Jeff and other people, there was, again, always something missing, and I was just searching and searching. And we ended up moving into a house next to these wonderful people. And I remember seeing her 3-year-old daughter had something on the refrigerator, and it was a cross, and it said, "Jesus died for my sins." And I just remember, I just don't know. I just don't know about that. But she invited me to a women's study, Bible study, Fellowship International. And I couldn't think of an excuse fast enough to say, "No, I'm sorry, I don't want to go. I'm Jewish. I have no interest in that." But I ended up going. And then on the way there with the boys to this first Bible study as an introduction, I just confessed to her that I was Jewish and had no interest in that. I just did not. And she was just so loving and so full of grace. And I remember going into there, we were singing "Nothing But the Blood of Jesus," and just mouthing to her that I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm so sorry. But the words were just so beautiful, and there was just something there. I bought my first full Bible. All of mine were Old Testament. They were in Hebrew. And I just got my first Bible and just started studying every morning, like at 5 a.m., to go and be a part of this Bible study. And I remember, I think it was 5 in the morning, I just started emphatically telling Jeff, like, how could people not see? We were in Romans, studying Romans. We were going back and forth, and I believe it was Isaiah 53, and just really studying the word. And God had been working on my heart for so very long. But in that moment, I just felt like, how could people not see? How could people not realize that Jesus is the Messiah?
Right.
And I had struggled with that for so very long, but really not able to make that commitment to just give up my heritage, all the culture, and my entire family, to just let that go. And we had moved into a house that Don McKinney was taken care of. And he was the pastor of Hume Baptist at that time.
Yeah.
So every morning, the house needed a lot of work. So he was over at our house pretty much every day. And every day we would have discussions like, who's this Paul guy? Tell me about what he's doing. Josephus, tell me about him. Because I was just like, I needed to be sure that my decision was correct. So after many, many months of trying to figure that out and struggling with that, I remember sitting in a Safeway parking lot, ready to go in for grocery shopping. And I just prayed, God, please tell me if this is right. I'm just putting myself aside, and whatever you have for my life, please tell me, because I'm tired of struggling. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, I felt as if I all of a sudden noticed I had blinders, had become aware of these blinders that I had on, and they were taken off. And for a very brief moment, things were just very clear. And I just remember feeling so giddy with the realization, I am a Christian. I am a Christian. And the only song that I knew was, I Am a Sea. So I remember just walking around and just introducing myself to people that I didn't know and telling them that I was a Christian because I was so elated and excited. And that's kind of that. But then it's a journey, really.
So one of the things that we have learned over the years is that God is sovereignly at work, even at times when we're not exactly sure what he's doing.
Exactly.
And then you talked about the blinders. We've been going through the book of 2 Corinthians as well, and it talks about the veil being removed. And particularly in chapters 3, 4, and 5, he speaks about the fact that unless he intervenes in our life, those blinders stay on. So
Absolutely.
I think your statement is awesome because when God removes the blinders and really lets us see what's going on spiritually, it's a whole new world to then receive him, trust him, and then move forward serving him in our life.
Absolutely. It was amazing just for that brief moment.
So that then brings even more continuity then to your entire family.
For sure. Yes.
And then shortly thereafter, you guys had moved from the Centerville-ish area, then out here to Hume, met Don, who was the pastor who ironically now, since he's retired, comes here.
I get to see him every Wednesday.
It's wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
You then visited GBC somewhere around 2013-ish?
Right, 2013. I was really struggling with what God wanted for my life. Like, if there's one big question in my life, like, what do you want me to do? My identity and what and how I can best serve.
Exactly.
And so we had some friends here, Wayne and Faye Burkmeyer, the Burks. There were just people, and they had invited us here. And so we came, and that first service, like Jeff and I looked at each other, we're home. It was amazing. But it was so profound. I can't remember if it was maybe 3, 4, 5 times, but I remember you speaking on our identity and what our purpose is. And these probably are not your exact words, but what I heard through God, is how I interpreted what was being said, is that if you want to know your purpose, for how to serve God, go find where God is working and then just serve. And well, God is definitely working here at GBC, so I'm just going to say yes to anything people ask me to do.
Very much your personality.
At GBC, God is working here. I'm just going to say yes. If you guys ask me to, say something about, our military while Jeff was deployed, yes, even though I, don't like speaking in front of people back then. I am not a gardener. I'm not an outdoors person. I remember planting the petunias and things like that. So yes, I'll clean out the garbage. Yes, I'll do this. And it was just amazing to see how God faithfully just led me to different aspects.
But ultimately, though, that led to discussions that we would have. And then with your background and some expertise and a kind of a broad brush, everything from leading smaller organizations to even being a part of larger organizations, there seemed to be more of a realistic fit for you to actually become part of our staff. And then that led you to basically taking over our children's ministry, as well as eventually from there, then also taking on our entire administration. And one of the things that I've been so appreciative of is with Amy being able to wear multiple hats and juggle that. Not everybody's able to do that. Some folks are able to do really well focusing on one task. But if you're able to find a person, particularly in a smaller church like ours, who's able to wear multiple hats and not get completely flustered by all of it, that ends up being a good fit, because that's sort of the way I've had to operate over the years. And so we've been so appreciative of the way that you have revamped and morphed our children's ministry, as well as our admin, and been able to streamline that. Plus, work together on the philosophy of getting more people involved, so we're not burning people out.
No, exactly. So that we're all working together.
Right.
I truly believe that finding each gift and talent of of many people, and letting them shine in those areas is just beautiful. The same things that I struggled with, and being able to help people now find where they fit.
Right.
And it's just beautiful to see how we all come together, for
Well,
sure.
let me open up another door here for folks to understand. Amy also has multiple certifications in areas of counseling, and you may not be aware that she often coaches women as well. Would you mind just giving us a little bit of a inside look into that window of your life as well?
Absolutely. So I really struggled, like I said, growing up, but then also when I became a young mom, it was just very hard to be at home and just feel so lost and feel so stuck and not know what to do. And I really didn't have a good support group at that time. I didn't have a church. I didn't have the synagogue because I kind of married outside of the faith, so there was no support there. We were far away from family and had really no connection. So the things that I struggled with, I really felt strongly about helping other people as well. So I really hit it hard, I think 2019, 2020, getting certifications, because if I was struggling, then other people were struggling as well. And so now I get the opportunity to coach people and help them in that aspect with their relationship, their vertical relationship that we talk about, their relationship with God, and heal themselves so that they can in turn heal the relationships that they have with their spouses, with their children, and with others. And just so that their life is so much more joy-filled.
Right. And you've been able, because sometimes I'll come in relatively early and Amy's already here and she's already got 5, 6, 7, 10 women on one of these coaching networks in the morning, or sometimes you're doing something in the evening. Sometimes I've seen you do things in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And that's been great too. And I've also noticed that it's not just, say, older women, it's a lot of younger women, a lot of younger moms that are able to jump on and then identify with what you were really wrestling with back in the day.
Right. I think it's scary to feeling like you're stuck and I should have this. If I pray hard enough, if I do this, then why aren't things working? Why do I feel so stuck? Or what's in for my next chapter? If I'm moving from a transition of married to now children, how does that fit in? How do those dynamics of the relationship work? And then moving from now my children are out of the house, or now I'm middle aged, like there's a transition and we often get stuck in that. And I love being able to help people take their hand and walk them through that.
And then unleash them to be able to handle that. I've watched how folks have responded to what you're doing, and it's been really, really good. Now, I know one of the other components, and anybody that deals with work, male or female, doesn't matter. If you are immersed into what you do, there's always the danger that it may not be really working and synchronizing at home. So one of the blessings as well with Amy and her family is that Jeff has been able to dive in as well. Jeff, you'll get a kick out of this. I will refer to you as our Minister of Sanitation. Jeff does a lot of work here around our facility. Even though he's very engaged with his regular work at the Virginia Tech Extension up towards Middleburg and dealing with all the animals, Jeff has helped us with everything from taking the trash to helping out with all kinds of things mechanical. So that's been awesome that you guys have been able to do that together.
Get to serve together as a family.
Right. Not just on Sundays, but even in various times during the week. And we have the added blessing of their 2 sons, Mason and Josh, who have really come alongside of us since COVID. I mean, back then they were just teenagers, but they were willing to jump in and help in any way possible. And they have basically come in and are running, for the most part, our entire AV division. And we're really grateful for them. So not only do they do that on Sundays, but then they're here a lot during the week, helping us out with setup and with takedown. And they have really gotten to know a lot of the intricacies of what happens here at GBC. And so as a family, we're grateful that your entire crew has been able to jump in. And that's given Barb and I a really unique privilege of getting to meet your entire family outside of just a Sunday situation.
It's such a beautiful thing. And we have just so enjoyed as a family being able to serve the people here, not just you and Barb and now Philip and Brenda and just over the people of the years and all the congregation, but we have just thoroughly enjoyed being part of this community and just giving back in any way we can. Just serving is just has been such a blessing.
It's mutual.
Yes.
Okay. Before we wrap up, is there anything about your background growing up, any particular foods that you enjoyed with your Jewish ethnicity and heritage that you still enjoy, or things that you would say, I've had enough of that?
So I enjoyed, we always had festivals, like we celebrated them all. We had about 50 people over at our house at any given time. So there was copious amounts of food, but some of them was weird, the gefilte fish, which you actually laugh at now, smothered in horseradish. Right. Some of it was just, I look back, I'm like, I just don't know if I could eat that now. I can't. I'd end up in the hospital. But that was one of those things. Just the different celebrations, the different things like that were just really beautiful. I miss that, but I love this new life in Christ. I just can't.
And one of the things, too, you've been able to blend and marry a bit here some of the Jewish backgrounds of the Old Testament to the New Testament components in a very unique way, because you've experienced that. Unlike myself, I've never been to Israel. I don't really have any of that background, but you've been able to even bring some of that into our kids' church ministry as well, which has been really great.
It's fascinating to me to sit in a Bible study, especially early on. I would sit next to Bob Trumbo.
Right.
And I would sit very close to him and behind, because his Bible was in Greek and I had my Hebrew one. Yeah. And it's just interesting to see, because my perspective is an Old Testament perspective, on that. And then hearing a New Testament perspective, and then the different the different ways they mesh together, and it just becomes so much richer.
As the way God designed it.
For sure.
And then finally, do you have a particular Hebrew name? I mean, I know a lot of times when we look at the Old Testament, names were very important and fundamental to not only the culture, but to individual families and what they meant.
Right.
Is that part of your heritage as well?
It is.
So what would that be for you?
So my Hebrew name is Hannah Esther. Ben, and then that would be daughter of Menashe Reuben, which is my dad. So our names are really, really long. If you ask the boys, they're huge. But Esther is my favorite book of the Bible. That is my Hebrew name, Hannah Esther. So
awesome.
It's just beautiful.
And with Easter and Passover just around the corner coming up, it again provides a very unique opportunity to share in both of the beauties of those different types of celebrations as well.
So rich, for sure.
Awesome. Well, Amy, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with everybody today. I also want to thank you for joining us, and we also so much appreciate your feedback on our editions of Weather and the Word. Coming up, Philip and I are going to be diving into some different theological concepts. We'll probably bring Amy back as well as part of our discussion teams, and we look so forward to be able to sharing more about not only our lives personally, but about what God is doing in our life as well. So regardless of what you're doing for the weekend, enjoy today, 60 to 65. Just soak it in. Have fun, a great time with family and friends. Amy and I, the two of us, we're going to look forward to seeing you here at church on Sunday.